Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn. I'm joined by my bestest, goodest, beardedest buddy, Mr. Nick Miller. Nick, happy Monday. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Tired, working a lot, but feeling good. I'm in a stretch, John, where we just filmed our second of 7 weddings in 10 weeks in 5 states. And so I've been go. I haven't had a stretch like this since like 2019. So it's been a while since I've been this go, but I'm excited. Things are going well. I just released our South Africa film. I am very proud of it. It was great. Portfolio piece for us. I don't know, or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I'm feeling good, feeling happy. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm well. As recording this, this upcoming weekend is my first weekend of the next 6 or 7 shooting as well in lots of different places. I think I'm in 5 states in the next 6-7 weeks or something, or another country. I don't know. I'm going all over the place. And so this weekend was in Oklahoma, which was only a 2-hour drive away, kind of a nice warm up to get the dust off of my cameras and all that stuff from the winter season. And I'm super motivated and excited. We have had awesome, we went to Denver a couple weeks ago with our mastermind group, our VIP mastermind group. We had Eric Floberg on our mastermind last week, and just hearing from people and being inspired. That's what I love about this community, is being able to connect with so many amazing wedding filmmakers, to be able to help others, getting messages from people just saying how life-changing this information is. And so as a quick side note, thank you if you're listening to this and if you support us. We love and care for you and want you to be successful. But Nick, today is a really awesome episode because I've been watching this guy, Chris, from Storybox Cinema from afar. Watch him go from his films are great to, oh my goodness, he is like a luxury wedding filmmaker and just killing it. I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks back, and they were talking about Chris and what he has done to go from kind of a mid-range wedding filmmaker to one of the most expensive wedding filmmakers, and getting to travel and do all this luxury work. And so we wanted to have him on to just talk about relationships and building relationships, whether or not you are wanting to go into the luxury market, or you're wanting to go more adventurous, or wanting to go elopements, or whatever it is. But walking through his story was super inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. And so I don't think we need to hold anything back. I think we just go ahead and get into the episode.
All right, let's do it.
It seems like there are new cameras and equipment coming out all of the time. It gets increasingly confusing, and the FOMO is real. John and I have been preaching for years that the best way to try out new gear is to rent before you buy. There is only one place that we recommend when it comes to renting, and that is our friends over at Lens Rentals. Lens Rentals is the premier source for renting not only camera equipment, but lenses, drones, projectors, and more. Do you have a big project coming up and you really need to wow your couple? Wanting to test out the newest camera before you drop thousands on it? You need Lens Rentals. My favorite thing is that if I love something I rent, I can keep it. They apply a portion of the rental fee to the purchase price, and within a few simple clicks, the gear is mine. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/lensrentals and use promo code HTFW15 at checkout for 15% off of your order. Lens Rentals, the only place we recommend renting.
All right. Well, welcome Chris Jespersen from Storybox Cinema to the How to Film Weddings podcast. Why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, tell us all the things about you. We want your full life story, starting from when you were a baby. No, I'm kidding. No, tell us a little bit about you, how you got into weddings, where you're located, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, my name is Chris. So happy to be on this podcast. It's amazing. I have so many friends on here. So I'm geeking out now. Okay, now I'm nervous. But how do I get into weddings? I started filming about when I was in middle school, I was filming. I remember I went to youth group, and our youth pastor gave us a camera, and I looked through it, and he was film 30 seconds at a time, and you can put it together, film longer than you think you need to. And I fell in love with it instantly. On all our family vacations, I was always taking photos with the little point and shoots. Always in arguments where I got in trouble because we're fighting over the cameras when we were younger. So got to college, studied photojournalism actually all through college. was dabbling in video the whole time. Had a job at a tech company up in the Seattle area, filming, like working on the production team there. So that was like my first kind of cutting my teeth, moving from like the era of like 5Ds and mirrorlesses to kind of like cinema cameras. Or for me, that was that transition. And so I worked there for about 5 years, shooting commercials and documentaries, all that sort of good stuff. But that's really learned, I feel like, how to be a filmmaker, how to like actually do audio, and we started to shoot. We were in that transition of going from like 5Ds to Black Magics to the red cinema cameras, and so it was just like this. Felt like an internship that I got to get paid for. From there, I had filmed. Oh, what happened is so my wife and I are now in Cleveland, Ohio. So we were out in the Seattle Pacific Northwest for a while, our whole lives, and then my wife got a job, or my wife got a full ride for a PhD here in Cleveland. So we ended up moving out to Cleveland. I ended up starting my own company out here, kind of on a whim. It was like kind of a crazy like a week where I was going to take a job on Monday, and by the end of the week that day, I decided to start my own production company doing video. Never wanted to touch a wedding ever in my life. I wanted to do commercial work, was working on a lot of that sort of stuff. And then 2 good friends got married. Classic story. 2 good friends got married. I flew back to Seattle, filmed their wedding, and it all just kind of clicked. I was like, wait, I love this. I studied photojournalism, so I love the real stories. I was never that interested in like, I don't know, like filming movies. I have like crazy ADHD, and so it always took so long to film a scene. And so I thought, oh my gosh, these weddings are like perfect. There's a story arc that we know what's going to happen, and then there's freedom within that to kind of like have fun and shoot. So I fell in love with it. I started, all their friends started getting married, and the classic story, here I am today. I am fully in the event world and loving it.
So like, I want to like kind of, you said you got into, a friend's wedding. For those that don't know you, why don't you talk a little bit about the kinds of weddings that you're doing today, a little bit about your work today, if, kind of ballpark what you charge for some of your films, a little bit of that side of it. Cause I think that people don't know who you are yet. They should,
Sure.
but, I've been watching you from afar, and there's a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff going on with your business.
Thank you. Now we we primarily work with a lot of high net worth individuals, celebrities, private individuals. So we film a lot of luxurious events, but luxury events around the world. We're traveling typically multi-day weddings, typically destination weddings. And then, for us to come out, we're right around the $30,000 to come out to shoot a wedding. So yeah. So it's been like a really fun transition into like this kind of crazy, bizarre world where 5 years ago it was, it was not this. So it's just
I'm
been
interested
like
to hear about that journey, because you said you kind of went in Seattle, doing production work, and that's the route you wanted to go. And then you're like, oh, within a week of moving to Cleveland, you're like, I'm going to start my own business, and I don't want to do weddings. And so in 5 years, you go from weddings really aren't my thing to now, making, upwards of $30,000 per wedding. Like, how did that come about? Like, break that down a little bit. Like, how did you, like, the steps that you made in the...
He said it. He filmed one wedding, and now he does $30,000.
Your first wedding got you $30,000 bookings. Got it.
Yeah.
Move on. So yeah, tell us that story.
Okay, sure. I think, let's think. So what kind of happened? Like, I started shooting the wedding, and I will say, like, my friends were these beautiful couple, and they had a beautiful wedding out in Seattle, Washington somewhere. And I remember just thinking, hey, this is going to look good on my film reel at the time. Not a wedding reel, just like, hey, if I was to do one wedding, this would be the wedding I'd want to do, and we're going to get a really cool shot, and it's going to be epic in my reel. And so I was moving from Seattle out to Cleveland and starting to do weddings. So I was flying home, for every wedding we got booked. People had no clue I lived in Cleveland. I was booking these weddings for like $1,000, $2,000, and I was like, I am so rich. This is insane. They didn't know I had moved to Cleveland. I was flying home on the, so I was making like $500 per wedding, and I was like, I did it. Like, I'm here. I have made it to this is insane. This is so cool. So, and pretty quickly after that, I realized, like, there's destination weddings, and not even from seeing them, just from remembering, like, oh, people, being from Seattle, people go out to Maui to get married all the time. And I was like, I want to go to Maui. I want to go on vacation. Like, I love to travel. And so at that point, I was in Cleveland. And I'll also say, like, a lot of my story, the timeline of it and everything is there's like a lot of right place, right time, a lot of luck. There's a lot of people that have been a part of my story that have lifted me up, and I'm happy to mention all that stuff. But just a precursor that so much of it is just kind of like when I started and happened to be in the right place at the right time, and a lot of good people around me. So I had reached out to a wedding planner in Maui just off Instagram, and was like, "Hey, I would love to like come out to Maui and shoot a wedding, and like basically get me on a plane. I want to go travel. I'm 24 or something, and let's do this." She had asked me if I was going to the Knot Gala. There's a big fancy gala in New York for like the knot.com, and a bunch of a bunch of people would go out, and I had no idea what that was. And so I basically emailed the Knot 30 times until they maybe regretfully gave me a ticket. They gave me a ticket. I showed up. I did not know what a black tie event was. I had no clue. I was going to Men's Warehouse. I mean, if there's a photo of me, it looks like I was like in prom when I was in high school. I had the vest and like tube pants. I was freaked out. I had no clue what any of this was, but I showed up there to meet her. So I drove 9 hours, whatever it was, to New York, met her, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're like 10 years old. I thought you were much older. You're a very young kid." And but we met, and I showed her like a video on my phone. Her name is Lori. She from Unveiled Hawaii. I showed her a video I'd done on my phone of a wedding back in Seattle, and she's like, "I'd never seen anything like this. Come on out. We're going to be doing a styled shoot. I'd love to have you out to Maui to shoot at this resort called the Four Seasons Lanai." I had no idea what that was. Ended up having a good night at the Knot Gala, and still I think this is super funny now. Like at the time, I had brought a bunch of business cards and like super glued little USB drives onto the back of them, and we're like handing them out to everyone. And like now I look back and like that was not the time. I remember I handed it to someone, and someone like cleaned their teeth with it and flicked it off. And I was like, okay, I think I'm in the wrong place. Like I am out of I don't know, that was not a networking event in that way. But yeah, I ended up like going out to Maui, shooting at the Four Seasons Lanai, which at the time and actually I think is one like best hotel in the United States for the past 3 years. I mean, it was incredible. It was this mind-bending experience where I walked in, and I didn't know that there was hotels like that in the world. I didn't know that there was places like so beautiful. I didn't know people had weddings or gowns that cost so much and that were so detailed, and that there was so much production into like a fashion shoot. And I got to work with the school photographer Mike Adrian out in Maui, and I just saw firsthand for the first time like this level of customer service that someone had, and kind of this professionalism that he had. He was up here, the way he was talking to people and his professionalism and the way he handled himself, and I was just so inspired. I've always loved customer service jobs. Like I've worked at the coffee shop, I've worked at all sorts of little restaurants. I always say if all this fails, I'd go work at McDonald's, because I love getting to just hang out with people. But I was really blown away by his customer service, and I was just like, this world is sick. Traveling, like high caliber clients, high stressful situations, get the reward of like getting to shoot this beautiful destinations, getting to kind of act professional, like, and look cool, and be professional in the way he spoke. I thought that was so cool. And so I just kind of latched onto it with everything I had. And from there, then I had a lot of friends talk to me. Like at that moment, I had a lot of friends talk to me about going to this Engage conference, which I'm sure you guys know about. A lot of people in there have probably gone to that. So that was 2016. And it was just this progression, like this kind of ball rolling. I went to that like right after. I only knew 2 people. And that also blew my mind open of just like, wait, people, there are big events. There are these fancy things going on beyond what I even knew of that were happening in the world. I did not know parties happen like that. And I was just kind of totally enthralled with it. Like I just loved it. I'm an extrovert. I love celebrating with people. And I was just like, this is my world. Like I found this thing. I had no idea. And so I started going to these Engage conferences, and they ended up serving me really well. And, I got to be able to, meet people and talk to people. And a lot of my inspiration, a lot of business advice had just come from other individuals. One of the people, I remember Sylvia Weinstock was there before she passed, and we got to sit down at dinner together one night. And she was just telling me her story. Like she started baking cakes when she was 40 or 50 years old after a whole career of teaching. And she's charging $100,000 for these cakes. She's flying in private jets with them to her clients. She's done them for all.
and I just chatted with her about it. And she's like, well, I just picked the best ingredients. I got the best butter. I found the best flour, and I just did the absolute top. And then that just like totally changed my perspective, because I thought, like, how much do we limit ourselves? Like, how much do I limit myself? Because, well, the client isn't going to want this. So I was like, people at that conference, I just realized people will pay for what they find value in. And so someone out there is going to love video, and some people are going to love cake, and some people are going to want to spend more on something else. But my eyes were kind of open, continued to be like open to like, oh, people have money and they're interested in spending it in things that they find value in. Continued to go to the Engage conferences just because I was finding that like it was really working for me. I got to meet a lot of people, and I absolutely loved it. I got to actually, where it really started to turn. I got asked to film the Engage conference at one point, and I did it. And I brought, I was like, how much do you get paid to do this? And they're like, nothing. You get to come out and do this. And so I did. I brought out a whole team. And at that time, I was just trying to think of new things to do. So we started doing three same day edits every day of the conference. And I just felt like the more I had this opportunity, and the more that I can show people, like the more, if I can under promise and over deliver every time, then people are going to remember me. And that the conference I ended up shooting, I was the only video person there. So we're just talking like marketing dollars. It was so worth it for me to be there. And then we did these same day edits every day that were getting posted, probably like it was 2016, 2017. So that was pretty unique. I think at the time, like there's clients that there's a lot of people that would like have same day edits paid for a client to show at a reception, but to be busting these out kind of social edits was something we were trying to do. And then where all really happened was at the end of the whole conference, what I really wanted to do was edit this video to show everyone, to kind of show at the end. And there was, and so I asked the Catherine and Rebecca, the people at the conference, I was like, 2 hours before the conference, they had asked me, we don't need a video, but I said, do you guys need a video by chance by the end? Do you want to show a recap video? And they're like, yeah, why not? I said, okay. And so then I like ran back to my little editing bay and like wherever, like sitting in the back. I was like, I have 2 hours to edit the best film that I've ever edited in my life, right here, right now. You don't get this opportunity again. And I sat down and I busted out this 3-minute highlight film of the whole week. We left open spaces for the actual gala that night. So we had it all edited. No one spoke English on the tech team. It was like, I felt like a 5% chance of this thing actually pulling off. Who knows if like my hard drive is going to fit into the computer. We end up editing it. We ended up getting it down there. We end up getting it on the computer. It never worked when we tried it before. And I was like, this is not going to happen. The gala is happening. We give it to the tech people. Everyone's speaking Italian. And we're like, they're like, okay, great. I'm like, well, when does it play? And they're like, well, it's not on the schedule. So we don't know. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So then like, I just went up to the head designer in the middle of the whole event and was like, hey, we have a video. Can we play it? He stood up, stopped the whole party. So there's a video about to play. This is all very cinematic happening. It's like a movie happening. It shouldn't have worked this way at all. But stood up, we played the video. It worked perfectly. The audio worked perfectly. Everything that like should not have happened, it worked. We got a standing ovation. As that standing ovation is happening, I'm like very overwhelmed at that moment of just like, what is happening? This is all like, for 3 hours, I was just going ham on the editing, and it's a pull off. And now that people are clapping, and I remember leaning over and being like, how much do you charge? This is when the whole room is clapping. And I was like, $4,000. And they're like, triple that right now. And I was like, what? And they're like, triple it right now. And I was like, okay. And that's kind of how that happened. The next day I was in a group of all these people, and, someone publicly was kind of like, hey, Chris, what do you charge for a wedding? I was like, whatever I say right now is like, that's what it's going to be moving forward. And I wanted to say 5 or 10. And I was like 15. And everyone's like, oh, great. Okay. And I was like, okay. And then, and then it continued from there. With that it wasn't as simple as that, but that's where it kind of started. And then from there, I got a lot of opportunities to kind of prove myself over and over and over again. And there was a lot of kind of work going through all that. I think at the moment I thought that I'd like made it at that moment. Like we did it, but it really just at that point allowed me the opportunities to then show off my actual work and really getting to work with people. And then
love it.
There's a lot more from there, but yeah, it's been kind of a crazy, lucky,
that's so incredible. And as I'm sitting here listening to your story, I think the one thing that holds so many people back whenever they want to get into this industry, or they want to, I want to do destination work, or I want to work with this planner, or I want to work at this, you fill in the blank, whatever it is. You were like, hey, planner in Maui that I like. And you just messaged her. And how many people at that point, you're 10 hours away, and say, hey, I'm going to be at this event in New York. Are you going to be there? How many people will be like, nope, that's 10 hours. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's ridiculous. Why in the world would I do that? And you were like, I know nothing about this thing, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to get there, and I make these stupid business cards, whatever. But you decided to do that. And you shot your shot. And then when the door opened a little bit, you're like, okay, I'm going to shoot it again. You just kept on going. And how many people also would be like, okay, I'm going to go to Maui, halfway across the world, for a styled shoot. You think of it, but those are the kind of things that it's so incredible. And I think that what I'm hearing you say is, and I've known this to be true for so much, is that the relationship building, who matters so much. And I am really excited to hear you talk about all those relationships that you're building. And we're going to do that right after this break.
Nick and I have to tell you about one of our favorite places to upload our wedding films, and that is Love Stories TV. Love Stories TV is one of the best free resources for us wedding filmmakers. The best part is they are bringing the couples to us. All we have to do is upload our films and we are good to go. Upload unlimited wedding films to your completely free business page. Setup is easy and your films can be live in just minutes. Now is the perfect time to start uploading to Love Stories TV. So head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to check out all of the details and see how Love Stories TV is giving away $10,000 in cash to wedding filmmakers just like you. That's howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to start uploading and connecting with the right couples today.
One question that we see wedding filmmakers asking: what is the best site for licensing music? We have one answer: MusicBed. I have been exclusively using MusicBed since 2016, and our films are better because of it. I have been told during consultations that couples love our films because they feel raw, authentic, and that the music wasn't cheesy. MusicBed has a roster of incredibly talented musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and you can hear the difference. Find the perfect song with MusicBed's intuitive search features like genre, mood, beats per minute, and key, which is probably my favorite of the search parameters. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed to do what I did and take your wedding films to the next level. Use promo code HTFW22 at checkout to receive 1 month free with the purchase of any annual subscription. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. All right, we are back from break with Chris from Storybox Cinema. And, Chris, you just spent a little bit of time kind of talking about your story and how you've, connected with all these other people. But, I know that, a thing that I felt early on was, my work speaks for itself. And there is, there is a little bit to that. Like, if you're going to, shoot your shot and do big things, you need to have, somewhat of a work to back that up a little bit. Right. But also, I remember it took me for like 5 years before I really figured out, that the relationships really, really matter, and in building that kind of stuff. So why don't you spend a little bit of time talking about the role that the relationships that you've built have played in, where you are now, and maybe, advice that you might give to, newer filmmakers that are in their first couple years when it comes to building those relationships and how they should go about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something I'm glad that I've figured out pretty quickly. I'm not just kind of was like, oh, I don't think, like, I just realized for the weddings that I want to be doing, like the wedding planner is the key holder. Like, who's the key holder? Who's my client here? How are they finding me? Well, they're finding me through these wedding planners. So should I keep focusing on, and no offense to any of these things, right? But like posting them on video, getting like the best Vimeo shot and all that. I was like, wait, or trying to get them featured somewhere, or what? I was like, these wedding planners are the ones, they're referring people. So I just need to be good with them. And also figuring out the wedding photographers would refer people too, because videographers have a pretty terrible name, I think, in the industry. Is something that when I started, we were kind of trying to combat a lot, that people just didn't like videographers because they're out there with the big light, they're rolling a tripod down the center, all the things that we're all working to like not be. And so I found out pretty quickly that like, hey, these people are the ones giving the business. A lot of these sort of clients aren't coming and like finding Chris at Storybox and being like, wow, I love your work. They're looking for recommendations. There's a lot of work out there. And I think a quote that or this conversation I had with another photographer friend, we were talking about like Picasso or something. And like, I was like, he's like the best painter of all time. And he kind of questioned me. He was like, do you think he really was? I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure he was. He's like, or was he just the most known? Or was there someone else out there that probably was better in their basement somewhere, but we just know Picasso? And that was like, oh my gosh. And that is true. There are so many better filmmakers than me. Oh my gosh, these kids coming out on TikTok who can like think in a different way than I even can comprehend on like how to film and do all these, there are better filmmakers in the world. So many of them. But I realized my job is to be the most known, and not in an egotistical way, but I need to be known by the people that want to hire me. And that doesn't mean famous. It means they need to know who I am. They need to know me. They an email or an Instagram message isn't always going to be a thing that worked the first time. But then I found pretty quickly that being in the room is what needs to happen. Me as my own business owner, I have a couple other companies. I have a venue. I have a couple things going, and so with the Storybox and another film company, and I started to realize how quickly my time got eaten up and how many people would email me for things. And I realized that if I was in the room with someone, things got done really, really quick. Things that maybe would have been pushed off to the back burner, or an email maybe I wouldn't have gotten back to. If it was in person, I'm talking to them face to face. Pretty quickly, I realized that like that's when stuff gets done. So I'd pay a lot of money to be in the room with people. A lot. Because I just found that's where things would happen. If this person's looking for a videographer and I'm sitting right in front of them because we just had lunch together, and they see that I'm a nice person to be around and I'm a semi-normal human being, and I mean, every time. So really what happened, kind of how I started to build those relationships, is I went out to, and I've told this story with a lot of other filmmakers, but I went to every single wedding planner I wanted to work with. I found out key information about them. I sent them a gift and a card, and I offered a free wedding video to each of them. And I think Sam was on this podcast a little bit ago, Sam Jespersen, and he said something to me like, Chris, people respect your work. You're very, your work is incredible. We're all incredible, but like everyone's work is incredible. If you look at any of these filmmakers' works, they're all incredible. What they don't know is they don't trust you. And not because I'm some bad guy, but they haven't had the opportunity to trust me. There's been no opportunity for them to trust me. And that was kind of breaking my brain for a little bit. And then I realized when I kind of got one of my first weddings that someone said, hey, this is a legacy client for me. We've done 5 of their weddings for them. This family I've worked with them for 20 years. So like, please don't screw this up. And that's when I realized, oh, it's not about, these people have to trust you that you're not going to F up these weddings. These are big deals. These are big clients for the wedding planners. And so if you can get on their side and show that you're not going to screw it up, and that you're going to serve their clients really well, and you're not going to talk when you're not supposed to, and you're not going to be a dummy in a million ways that you can be, and like you're probably going to get hired over and over again. And so those 2 lines of kind of like, well, I need to be known by the people that I want to hire. I don't think there's now is a little bit different, but at the time there was no way for me to just be found. There's a million people out there. There's like a million people doing incredible work all over the world. So how am I just going to be found? That's probably not going to happen. So I kind of need to create those opportunities for myself. So I'd get myself in the room with a lot of people as much as I could. And that's kind of how it happened. And then you find out your skill sets, you find out what you're good at, and then doubling down on those things. So, I'm not a tech guy. I'm not like a big camera techie. That isn't where I focus a lot of my energy. Mine is relationship building, because I love connecting with people. And it's true. I actually do like hanging out with people. It's not a business move. It's not a fake thing. I really like people. I really like getting to talk with people. I like partying it up with people. I love dancing. I like shooting a wedding and laughing about all the fun stuff that's happening. And I found for me that like, hey, that's kind of where my skill set lies. Like I like to have a fun time. I like to make it a fun experience for our clients. And also I like to like not make it stressful during these really stressful days that do happen, that are naturally weddings sometimes. And I found, so I was just trying to be self-aware of the things where I found like my skill sets lying. And again, there's a bajillion better filmmakers than me. But I think I'm pretty fun to work with. And I think like our team's really good to work with. And so those relationships, I put all my focus towards those. I don't post tons on Instagram. I would like to post more. I'm not involved in a lot of other things that maybe a lot of people are, but I am pretty involved with like the people that I work with in their lives, in their birthdays and their anniversaries and their big special moments. I'll fly across the country for someone in a second, to be with them for anything, if someone's having a whatever. I'm even when I started, I would message some planners that I wanted to work with and said, hey, I happen to be in California next week or in 2 weeks. Could I stop by and bring your team coffee? And they say, sure. And then I'd book my flight to California and go bring them coffee. And then I would get a job from that and so I just knew that I think that travel seemed scary to a lot of people as they're trying to kind of make it. But I'd say, don't be afraid of that stuff. Don't be afraid of being in the room with people. That's where a lot of magic happens in a world. And I just try to think, what is everyone else doing, and do the opposite of that. So everyone's focusing on Instagram and this and that and trying to look cool. And so I was like, okay, so I should be in the room with people, because that's probably not if everyone's focusing on this, I'm going to try something different to get a different result. And it worked. It didn't always work, but like it did eventually. And so I'm always just trying to think of kind of new and unique ways. I find it really fun. But I kind of found my skill set, found the thing that I really love, found where it worked in the industry that I love to do, and then just kind of like try to put fire on that.
So good. Okay, so you said something a few minutes back, and I just want to rewind and unpack it, because I think that I heard you say that you like found all these planners and you gave them a free wedding video. And
people
there's so
hate
many
that.
people. Yeah, so many people in the forums or on the groups that are just like, you shouldn't give away your work for free. You shouldn't. I was having a conversation the other day with a friend, and she was talking about you and how like you had, I think it was Easton Events is what she had said. But like, I would love for you to like unpack that just a little bit. Like we're talking about relationship building. We're talking about how did you go about like offering these free things? Like what was your mindset? Like obviously you can't come across like I'm a starving artist, I need work, but like how did you pinpoint who they were, and did you like how many of those suckers did you actually do, and what has it done for you?
You asked me that before and I like told a different story. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I'm taking so many notes. I love what you're saying.
So like after that Engage thing happened, where I like kind of had this moment, like the door opened for me for a moment. It felt like kind of people were like, hey, who is this kid? Who's this crazy guy that won't stop emailing us to film? When I had that opportunity, then I wrote every planner, and I'd only do it with people. This is exactly how I did it. After I burped, I'm so sorry. Okay. I would write a letter, a handwritten letter. So again, I'm trying to do everything opposite of what they're getting. I found a lot of these planners are getting 300 emails a month from vendors wanting to work with them. I'm like, okay, the email is not going to work. It's not working for anyone else. It's not going to work for me. So I did handwritten letters to each of the planners I wanted to work with. I would research each of the planners. One of them I found really loves French fries. And so I found the top French fry place near her office. I found how many people worked for her at her office, and I bought a gift card to that restaurant for the French fries so each of her team members could get French fries and like a soda for that amount, and sent it to her and said, hey, so this is where what Sam Jacobs had said really affected me, and I needed a reason for them to trust me, and not come, like you were saying, not come across needy, because that's like number one. Do not don't be that. So I knew that they probably already have the next 2 years planned. So I'd say, hey, in the next 2 or 3 years, if you have an opportunity, I'd write them a letter. Here's a gift. Hey, it's absolutely a pleasure meeting you. I'd only do it with people I've met. So I'd make sure I'd been in the room with them. I've chatted with them, so at least they could have a face to know who I was. From there, then I'd write them a letter with a gift saying, it's just a pleasure to meet you. This is basically who I am. I made video folders 5 years ago. I ordered them from China so because I was like, no one is going to open a link on an email because I don't. So I need a physical way to show this, that they're not going to throw away, that they're going to have to sit on their desk and they'll feel bad about when they throw it away. And so I made those video folders that were these 10-inch ones. I sent it to each person individualized with their logo on it, introducing them, like saying, hi, so-and-so, Lynn Easton. She had my whole reel on there, and then 5 wedding films that you could watch. Force them to watch it so they couldn't throw it away. With that came a gift, and with that came a handwritten letter of saying, hey, here's who we are. Here's what I am. And I never said anything about the work, because it's, again, at this point, we're not even talking about the work at this point, because everyone is good. I would say, hey, we are really a collaborative filmmaking group, you know, we love working with photographers. We like working with the caterers. I'm a celebration enthusiast. I love parties. I want the party to work. If the photographer needs us to pick up, you know, their bags so they can get a better shot, if the caterer needs us to move a table, if the florist needs us to hold a bucket, we are there for it. We're happy to do it. You know, they're going to get an amazing film. That's no problem. That's absolutely happening. But this is the other ways we serve. And I said, I want you to know that you can trust us. I'd like to offer you a free video so you can see and work with us, to see how we work, to see if we're the right fit for your team. So I just taking all the pressure off. Not saying we are the right fit. I'm saying test us out and see if we are. We might not be, but give us a shot for free. I want to show that you can trust us. Our films normally cost $20,000. And I'd love to offer you one for free. So I'd make sure they knew that I was only going to give them one, and I made sure they knew that how much we charged for future reference. So after they experienced us, they knew exactly how much we cost. And the crazy part about all that is I paid. So I was making that transition from kind of like mid-tier to super luxury. And it was just this crazy experience where I started not getting any more inquiries from my mid-tier relationships that I had here in Cleveland. And I had told nobody what I charged at all. I was kind of doing these two price brackets at the time as I was making the switch. And what I assumed was going to happen is that I could kind of have one foot on this side of things and put my foot on the higher end weddings and then make my way over. And what I realized is I was actually jumping, and it was very scary because I realized I was getting no more inquiries from this, and I have a year of free events booked for the next year. And I was like, oh, crap, maybe. That's what I said. What do I do? What was crazy though is within that is either they tipped me more than I needed to be tipped and paid for all my travel. Either people paid for my travel or people decided to pay for me. By the end of doing those free events, literally at some of the events, and a lot of times before the actual events even happened, those free events, I booked up another wedding or two with those planners, because what it did was unlock that trust button, that if he's willing to do this. So I would still deliver and actualize on those free events, maybe 2 years down the road. But a lot of times I had actually 2 more events or an event booked at full price before that. And so that's, so then, one of those was one of my dearest friends now, Lynn Easton. They had this incredible wedding out in Montenegro. And it's like, I basically would try to be intentional with every single film I did. If I was doing a film, if I was out there for 3 days, I filmed a same day edit for every single wedding. It's like, if we're here, let's do this all the way. Like, let's make this free event worth it. And so I know people hate doing free events. I know they think that's like the stupidest thing. I think it's the smartest thing if you're using it intentionally and being smart with it, because how else are people going to see your work? You need people to know who you are to charge for it. And so we did that with a lot of planners. Every single one took us up on it, and not one. I mean, it transformed my whole career. I mean, it's not. I would do it all over again, 100%. I talk about it being like someone throwing a rock at a window, and everyone's throwing rock. Like, I need to throw a huge stone at a window and make some big noise for someone to notice me. But there's no right way to do this. There's like a million different ways. This was kind of like my way, how I broke in. And so, yeah, it was kind of a wild experience though.
Yes. No, that's super great to hear. And like that, what you said about like unlocking the trust factor, like I think so many people go into relationships and try to go in with an I want something instead of I want to provide value. And just like hearing from you, hearing your story, hearing all of this, like super inspiring, whether or not you want to get into luxury markets or if you want to get into something else, but like getting in the room with people, being, somebody that people want to be around, not just expecting something from the beginning. Like all of that is super rad.
Wait, can I say one thing? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I see sometimes not in, like, I'm a part of like a lot of wedding film groups and a lot of different stuff. And I see a lot of people be like, oh, the wedding planner asked if she could like, or they could have a clip. Like, should I be charging for that? Or someone like, no, like what? No, do not be charging for like that opportunity there's so many opportunities to show the worth that you can bring. And I just think, I wish people that they can kind of change that mindset a little bit of like, well, how much should I be charging for this extra hour? I'm like, give it to them for free. Just over deliver, continually over deliver, and over deliver to the people that are going to hire you again. If someone wants you to wear a certain thing, wear it. If someone wants you to do a certain thing and hey, do you think you could shoot it behind the scenes for me so I could post it on my Instagram? Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. I just think we kind of can choke ourselves out of some pretty obvious opportunities that lie before us that, that really can help, I think, in my experience, of course.
Yeah. I love all that. I could sit here all day. I know Nick could as well. Just chatting with you. Our time is running low. If people don't know where to find you, to follow your work, get in touch with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, I'm at Storybox Cinema on Instagram. That's probably the best way. Or through my website, storyboxcinema.com. If you want to inquire. No, but you can get a hold of me either way. That's me on Instagram. You can just message right through, and I would love to chat with anybody. I love hanging out with people. So and I travel a lot. So if there's ever anyone I get to hang out with or kind of can meet up, I'm always game for that. So
Nick, anything else you want to add before we run out of time today? Nick's like,
yeah.
I'm like pointing at you, like, yeah.
No, thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate your perspective and how you're going about things, and shooting your shot. Taking leaps and doing stuff a little bit differently, and thinking a little outside the box. And I think you're one that hey, it definitely paid off for me, but you'd also been like, hey, I knew the risk that I was taking, and it might not have paid off. And so it's just
totally.
It's fresh to hear that. So thank you so much for taking the time and being on the podcast today.
Yeah, guys, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We appreciate you taking the time. We want you right now listening. If you want to stand out like Chris is talking about, you want to be different from other people around you, we have something that can help you with that with your clients, and that is our pricing guides. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com and check out the 3 different pricing guides that we have that can help you wow your clients whenever you are whenever you are presenting your prices to them. John, it has been great to hang out with you. I always look forward to these times. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, we will see ya.
See ya. Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/WedFlow to check out WedFlow today.